Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you here with me today. We're going to be starting off obviously with the tropics. We're going to be watching this potential for this gusty tropic wave moving through Trinidad Tobago. Will it get its act together and start turning into more of a tropical storm threat over the next several days? And both the GFS and the European model now showing a major hurricane coming very close to the Caribbean islands in about 10 to 12 days. We'll see exactly what could be happening with this and how plausible that this could happen, especially with both of the major models now showing it. We're also going to watch for a major typhoon developing here into the Western Pacific. I got all the details for you. And a massive ring of fire heat wave pattern comes back for the east, many areas slipping back into horrible drought mode. Let's get into it. And very eerie here is the European doing a similar thing to the GFS, showing a major hurricane. We'll get into all the details and compare. And if we take a look at the satellite view here, this is where your eyes are really drawn to. Look at Trinidad Tobago here, getting some very heavy rain from this tropical wave. Definitely flares up, especially later on in the afternoon and evening. We'll be watching this as it heads westward. Also, we're watching obviously this potential system. That's going to be a fish storm, but look at this big wave coming off the coast. This could be our trouble over the next couple weeks. All right, so starting off with the GFS here, obviously we're watching our two areas. These will be fish storms, though. That's why I'm not focused too much on them. You know, these will flare up, but here's the first one I'm going to be focused on, and I'll show you the European model in, a couple minutes here, probably 3 or 4 minutes. So let's get through the GFS first. You can see those gusty showers and thunder showers over the next couple days. Let me just back this up. So Friday, look at Trinidad Tobago up to Grenada here. You could be looking at some really big rainfall here. And that's going to push into the Eastern Caribbean through the 11th. So Monday. This is a very slow-moving tropical wave. And I do think it has the potential to develop here. Let me just zoom out just a tad here. And you can see it targeting Jamaica right around the 12th here. It could bring Jamaica some very beneficial rainfall here. Some gusty showers. This is where it starts to show some signs of development. And you can see through the 13th, it's a big ball of convection moving towards Cancun here. We could have this system potentially try to emerge into the Gulf as we head through the 14th here. I'm going to get to this in a second, but here it is. You can see it moving into the southern Gulf of Mexico by August 15th here. So this could be our potential next storm. Now, let's go to the Cape Verde waves here, because this is where our next system behind it will come out of. Here's our two areas. We may have a flare-up off the U.S. East Coast here. As I said, these two areas will be fish storms. Now, here's this bigger tropical wave. This is the one that really bears watching over the next 2 weeks. And it's in the stages of coming off the coast. You can see Central Africa. This is where we're getting these waves just lining up here. This is the one we're watching, but we're just having these waves just line up one right after another. Now, as we head through the 12th, we're already starting to close off a low. And you're probably thinking, okay, this is just the GFS. No, the European model is starting to grab onto this as well. So these positive signals are what we have to really grab a hold of at this point, because you can't just follow exact tracks. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. Is you can see this storm really does start to develop. It's a slightly different position, obviously, on the European, which I'll show you in a couple minutes here. But August 15th, showing this very compact system bearing down just northeast of the Caribbean islands. This is the 16th. So here we go, coming very close. Now, as I caution you, models before this had this storm more in this area, especially a couple days ago, and the 0Z runs. Now we flipped a little bit further to the north, just like the European has. Don't follow just the point. The fact that we have both major models showing some sort of tropical storm, or in this case, a hurricane here into the Western Atlantic / Caribbean, because this could still come south a little bit, especially if this subtropical high is further south or west and is stronger. So it's all in the key of this subtropical high and how it interacts with the East Coast subtropical high. So here we are on August 19th, obviously showing the Caribbean clear as a bell at this point. Another tropical wave out here off the Cape Verde Islands. But look at this. If this were to verify, and I'm going to give you a hint here, the European is showing this a bit further south. This shows it more of a Carolina run here. South Carolina, North Carolina, August 22nd. So here's the last frame, ironically. You're showing this blocking high, retreating over eastern New England, also a subtropical high building west, and it kind of gets caught between them. It can't exit cleanly up this way or deflect back out to sea. So this would be a really bad scenario, but there's where we have another tropical wave behind it here into the central Caribbean. This is what I mean. We're going to start lining up these tropical waves. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European tropical model analysis. Yeah, look at all this beneficial rain here around Florida and the northern Bahamas. One thing to note here, look at Trinidad Tobago, westward here, even towards the north or central Lesser Antilles, I should say, as we head through Friday. We have this tropical wave. All eyes are going to be on this as we continue to go through the weekend. You can see it flare up from time to time right around the islands here. It's a kind of a slow mover into Monday here. I am going to show you momentarily our potential for storm that's kind of off the screen up in this area. So look at this. As we head through August 11th here, Monday, you can see there is a lot of moisture bottled up here across the eastern Caribbean, even the southern Caribbean. Look at the eastern Gulf, southeastern coastline here. This is a crazy amount of moisture. And as we continue to go through time here, you can ultimately see where this tropical wave action. The European is keeping this wave just south of Jamaica as we head through next Wednesday, and then kind of hugging the northern Honduras, Belize coastline here. So watch out. There is another massive tropical wave coming on our radar here. 14th and the 15th. Look at this one. This is the one that the European has been really consistent about showing. It's possible we could have a tropical system. Now, I have to say, this run of the European here, this is Saturday, August 16th, has this heading just to the northeast of the Caribbean islands, but dragging a lot of these southern feeder bands through. So if you have vacation plans, watch out. Sunday, the 17th, it starts to move just to the north of Dominican Republic. Now, obviously, a couple days ago, the European was more in this area. So, you know, it's anybody's game in here. It is kind of a slow mover, but the European model is showing really grasping a hold here of a potential, you know, this far out, it's too hard to say, well, this is going to be a hurricane, but look at this. This would be right into Miami. I caution you, this is 13 days out. Look at this. This is kind of crazy if you think about it. So we'll continue to watch it here. It's showing up on the European model. As I said before, the Euro was, a couple days ago, was further south in this region with that storm. So it's come a little further to the north as this subtropical high has retreated a bit. And as you can see off the screen here, we have another tropical wave showing up. But look at that. That would be a devastating hit for Florida. It would literally make landfall there in South Florida, come out where Tampa is, and then make another landfall up here along the Panhandle, and then go inland with very weak steering currents here. So you see Friday, August 22nd. Take this with a grain of salt, but this has been showing up on the Euro in this region. If we look across the rest of the Atlantic here, I wanted to show you these other storms out here. We may have another storm trying to form well off the U.S. East Coast. And as we continue through time, where is that storm that was showing up? Well, it's kind of in this area. It's battling a lot of wind shear and whatnot, so it may try to still develop, but, you know, it's going to be a fish storm. Our attention's obviously going to turn towards this area. This is where the Cape Verde season is really heating up. Here's Wednesday, August 13th. There's that big wave that potential hurricane propagates out of. And look what's behind it. 3 more, even one that's still over Africa. All these waves just lining up. This is what we're going to be watching. This is going to be, I mean, the European is really showing the tropics open up by the 3rd week of August here. Sea surface temperature analysis here. I'll tell you, the Gulf is like bathwater. Some areas getting, really getting into like the upper 90s, mid to upper 90s for water temperatures. That's crazy. Look at the Western Atlantic here. Eastern Caribbean, Western MDR. It's crazy. It's just this area out here by the Cape Verde area is slowly trying to warm up. And for the Eastern Caribbean here, yeah, look at that. This takes us through the middle of next week. Not looking at too much here, 20 to 30, maybe 40 millimeters. Portions of Belize through Honduras here, upwards of 50 to 60. Florida and the northern Bahamas up towards 80 to 90 millimeters. But look at that. Yeah, this shows us all the way through August 22nd. Now showing that hurricane going north instead of through this region. So that tapers Jamaica and Cayman Islands rainfall down into the 30 to 60 millimeter range. Dominican Republic, about 60 to 100 millimeters on average here. Puerto Rico entering the 3 to 4 inch zone. And look at much of Central America, even up to Cancun. We're getting about 70 to about 125 millimeters on average here. Now looking at the Western Caribbean here, Central America region, as we head through the rest of this week into the middle of next week, you can see Jamaica. We're going to get that tropical wave moving through. It looks like it's going to bring you some beneficial rain through the middle of next week, 60 to as much as 100 millimeters. Central America, a little bit drier here, but watch as we go into the following week. Look at through Friday, August 22nd, pushing that potential hurricane further north and east of the Caribbean islands. Look at Jamaica here, 135 millimeters in some of these areas. Same thing for Dominican Republic. Some areas approaching 200 millimeters in the west central part of Dominican Republic with widespread 60 to 100 millimeters expected. And here we go into the Eastern Caribbean. Oh, Trinidad Tobago, yeah, that tropical wave action is going to be real for you here. Look at this, though. Let's just back this up a sec. Obviously the European model showing the hurricane potential up through portions of the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the Northern and Lesser Antilles. We'll keep an eye on it here because this could shift south again. Yeah, some areas 133 to 166 millimeters. Trinidad Tobago, you're averaging out here to about 90 to 110 millimeters. And as we head into the Eastern Caribbean, look at Trinidad Tobago, that wave moving through. Yeah, that's going to amount to quite a bit in the way of rain. 100 to 125 millimeters, not out of the question. Obviously, as we get towards the third week of August, we're going to be watching our potential for that hurricane. It still has time to push further south again. We'll keep an eye on it here. Look at Puerto Rico, right around 2.5 to as much as 4 inches of rain. All right, so Western Pacific here, we have Tropical Storm 16 essentially here. Obviously, this is slated to become a typhoon over the next several days. Look at Japan, though. As we head through the 9th into the 10th, you can see this is not tropical. This is just a parade of very heavy rain, monsoon-type rain with synoptic systems and synoptic flow. This typhoon is likely to deflect more westerly towards China, away from the flow of this upper-level pattern here with this jet stream. So you can see it bearing down on Taiwan. This run of the DFS actually has it weaker, but models obviously are trending this towards a major typhoon. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Through August 15th, you can see Japan does start to dry out. Northern Philippines socked in with heavy rain here. Hong Kong as well. So we'll keep an eye on it. That looks like that's the only game in town right now. So we'll watch it for the Northern Philippines, Taiwan, and especially later on for Hong Kong. But there it is. Japan, you have a couple days of heavy rain from the 10th, 11th, and 12th. And look at South Korea as well. We'll just take a look at this again. Most of the storm staying south of Seoul, South Korea, into the southern extreme peninsula here. You can see most of the heavy rain action missing. So yeah, this showing the typhoon going due west here as high pressure builds in on the northeast side of this system, pushing it more westerly. And Western Pacific tropical rains here, yeah, at least about, look at that, August 10th through about the 13th or 14th, Japan really starts getting hit, but it's mostly synoptic type storms. Look at this, 200, some areas close to 300 millimeters here, an area here to southern Japan as well, but that starts to taper off by the 15th. The Philippines here getting in on the act, but this little area here coming through Taiwan and then South China, that is our potential typhoon. Looking at our future radar here across the east, a lot of smattering of showers and thunder showers through midnight as we get on into overnight, Thursday night into Friday. You can see, especially from Florida off to the Outer Banks here. And as we go through time, it looks like this tropical system potential is way east of North Carolina. So that's going to take a lot of the moisture. Unfortunately, through 5 p.m. on Friday here, we do see a flare-up of showers and thunderstorms in eastern North Carolina, but it'll only be for a couple hours or so, and before high pressure really starts to crest in. You see what's happening here. We have the classic ring of fire kicking in here. Look at this. So you're going to get smattering of showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast, especially as we head on into, here is 11 a.m. on Saturday, August 9th, southeast Louisiana, Florida. I know a lot of you here in Florida, especially South Florida, have posted telling me you desperately need the rain. Let's hope it really magnifies here across South Florida. And look at these mesoscale convective systems riding up and over this ridge. But I have to say, many areas up here, especially this region, are really starting to get dry. All right, so we're picking up where our future radar left off here. You can see what's going to be happening over the next several days as we head through the weekend into next week. We've got that ring of fire setting up here. Essentially, we've got that big area of high pressure. It's just going to be camped out here, and it's going to push that tropical moisture into the eastern and central Gulf, and then those MCS systems are going to follow it up through the northern Midwest into southern Ontario and southeast Canada. Now, as we head through the 14th into the 15th, here's the 14th. We get an explosion of showers and thunderstorms as we head into the middle of next week. So there you have it. You know, a week out from now, we're also seeing some more beneficial rains for parts of the interior Northeast. And as we get into that weekend, you can see that storm system pushing off the coast, bringing parts of the Carolinas and the Southeast here with some shower and thunderstorm action. So, yeah, the GFS showing a bit less MCS activity here than the Euro, which I'll show you momentarily. All eyes are going to be on what's happening with this. It seems like the Euro and the GFS here are showing. This is interesting. You know, this one is further north with the Carolina push. So with the European picking up where our future radar left off, obviously as we head into the weekend, Florida, Georgia, southeastern Louisiana, and then the MCS ring of fire around this up through the Midwest. That's where you'll see some MCSs setting up through Monday. Look at this, though. This area really starting to get really bone dry here. Some of these areas are slipping back into drought. Now, as we head through the middle of next week, you do start to see a conglomeration of showers and thunderstorms up through portions of the Gulf off the southeast coast. And then look at this. Big storminess next Wednesday. Looks like some MCS chances here in parts of the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, and then this area off the east coast. So we'll start to get some rainfall. Storminess starts to ensue here through next Friday. Look at this. Along the east coast, the I-95 corridor here. All these linear showers and thunderstorms setting up with MCSs here to the north. But there, look at that. There's one Sunday, August 17th. So as I said before, I think there will be some good chances of MCS systems dropping out of the Ontario and northern upper Midwest. Obviously, we're going to be watching what the European does with us. Take it with a grain of salt. You can't say it's going to be targeting Florida, but this run just happens to be Florida. The 0Z run happened to be Jamaica. So we'll keep an eye on it here. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, you know, through Friday, August 22nd. Severe weather is mainly going to be prevalent across the upper Midwest and northern plains here. We could see that marginal to slight risk, especially in the eastern Dakotas and Minnesota during the day on Friday. Now, as we get on into the day on Saturday, that starts to become more linear and moves towards Wisconsin and the rest of the central plains here. So looking at our rainfall amounts here on the European model, as we take it through next week, through the weekend into next week, you can see the Southeast and the Midwest, the big winners here. Look at this. Florida piling up the rainfall through the middle of next week, the upper Midwest as well, all the way through the following weekend. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on this potential tropical system. If it does fall, look at that, 10 inches of rain. Wouldn't be surprised if some areas see closer to 20, but if this were to occur over Florida. So, yeah, you get the idea. Let's just subtract that out of there for now. There we go. So, Outer Banks, 2 to 3 inches all the way down to Florida. Look at South Florida. Many of you said you need the rain, 6 inches in some areas. That's some good news for you. Up through the Midwest, 3 to 5 inches. 1 and maybe close to 3/4 of an inch through the middle to latter portion of next week. Ohio Valley into the Northeast. And looking at our rainfall amounts here on our GFS model, very similar picture. As you can see the Southeast and the Midwest. And there's our potential impending hurricane a little bit further north than the European model. But let's just zoom in here. You can get an idea. Southeast Louisiana, 3 to as much as 6 inches in some of these areas. Look at Florida. I know South Florida needs it. Anywhere from 2 to 5 inches. This is some good news. Up to the Outer Banks, a little bit drier, 1.5 to 2 inches. And then up through parts of the Ohio Valley in the Northeast where you need some rain desperately. It looks like you'll eke out some as we head towards that third week of August. And before we continue with more weather coverage, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to respond to your questions or comments. Love reading all of them. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates, especially this tropical weather season getting busy. And if you haven't caught my Hurricane 2025 Outlook, it's a link at the end of this video and a description down below. Let's continue. And looking at our upper air pattern here, as we continue through time, you see that firecracker ridge just building across the east. That's going to continue with some cutoff lows and tropical lows off the U.S. East Coast. As we continue, oh, there we go. There's our positive signal for tropical development really starting to take effect here for the Southeast U.S. And for our NAO index, here we go, positive. You would say that we were quiet, but actually we're not very quiet. There's a lot of storminess. We will be hitting neutral late August. And for our MJO index, wow, the models really need to sort this out, don't they? But we are heading from phase 1 to 2, somewhere in 3, and eventually 4. So according to the MJO, quieter times are ahead. All right, so our Canadian weather outlook, as you can see, as we head on into the rest of this week, into the weekend, we're going to be looking for some very stormy activity here across the prairies, eastern Rockies. That's going to bring some beneficial rains. And look at this. As you can see, finally by next week, Monday, a lot of the moisture is bottled up over central and northern areas here. And the most rainfall that's going to be falling, this is really great news, through Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, where you really need the rainfall. Look at this. Through the 13th into the 14th, we get this storm system winding up across western Ontario. Watch out. It could bring a severe weather outbreak as we head through the middle of the month here. That pushing into northern parts of Quebec and Ontario. And then another storm system coming out of the Rockies across Saskatchewan, Manitoba here through the 16th into the set. Look at this. Yeah, I'm pretty certain at this point the GFS really targeting southern Ontario and Manitoba with some big MCS systems here, keeping a lot of them away from the U.S. But look at this, through the 19th into the 20th, another one dropping across southern Quebec here. So you get the idea, a very stormy weather pattern here. This is some great news for the Canadian wildfire situation. The last frame here, August 22nd, shows a big area of high pressure, but a cold front moving through parts of Ontario and Quebec. And for our Canadian rainfall here, look at the central prairies here. Some of these areas could be getting upwards of 100 to 150 millimeters. Yeah, that's some good rain in Alberta as well. Look at this. Some of these areas that have been dry. I do have to look at the west coast as well, British Columbia. Look at these rainfall amounts, though. This is some great news. Most of Ontario getting 90 to 125 millimeters through central Quebec as well. All right, so we're looking at temperatures. This, unfortunately, is going away in the east. Look at these nice temperatures in mainly the lower to mid-80s here. as we go Friday. Enjoy it, because look what starts to take over Saturday here. Don't know why it's taken a while for these maps to paint, but there we go. That 90s is going to be heading eastward, unfortunately, and we're just handling that same old broken record. Look at this, getting well into the 90s into parts of the Northeast on Monday or Sunday. Monday is even worse. Look at this, some areas getting into the mid 90s. Watch those heat advisories going into effect Tuesday, August 12th. Look at this. Find me a state, maybe Maine, that's doesn't have a 90-degree reading. Maybe North Dakota as well, maybe Minnesota and Wisconsin, but that's about it. And look at this, as we get into Wednesday, August 13th here, yeah, the heat is on across the east. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. We have a major issue here. We're going back into drought. Imagine that after such a wet early summer and spring. So the heat wave is coming back later this weekend and early next week. Look at that. We're going to be back into the 90s. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease, or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below, along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget, it's MeteoMark.com. And don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button, or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.